All right, we are on the interview section of the Ultimate Sports Network, and we're speaking with Michael McGinnis. Michael, how are you today?
Fantastic, Frank. Thanks for having me
Good.
on.
Tell the people what you're about.
Absolutely. So, my name is Michael McGinnis, and I am the founder of Empowerment Sports Group. And I am an athlete still to this day, I'd like to say. But something that I like to really focus on and what led me on the path that I am now is that once I realized that I was no longer going to be the one competing, I was trying to find how could I best serve and really provide value to athletes that are going through the sports system. What I found after many years, many disappointing opportunities that did not pan out, it took me 4.5 years to land an unpaid internship. So from begging and pleading and doing everything you can, song and dance, just to get some experience, that even in and of itself told me, well, maybe something's a little bit off about how this industry works. And that was looking at it from the top down. I finally got into the system, got some great experience, was fortunate enough to work with an MLB agent while I was in my first year of law school. And I mean, he threw me right into the trenches. He was like, can you go see players? Can you meet players? Can you scout? Pretty much just seeing, can you sink or can you swim?
Right.
And let me say, I can swim. I can swim.
I got the flippers out, right?
Exactly. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. I navigated the process well. And, that was about a decade ago. And so fast forward, where I am today is I've realized that most people, and again, I was a certified agent, baseball is a little bit different. And so I'm still a draft advisor, what we call it there. But I actually about 3 years ago completely changed my focus. I still help and service professional athletes, have many individuals going through the system right now and having some success. But what I found out was that the way youth sports were being conducted today was extremely predatory. I had a really good friend who he was talking to me 3 years ago just about, and he has a really great son. His son is a freshman in high school down in Dallas, Texas right now. He is going to do some big things. Dominique Watts Jr. So look out for that young man. He's going to be a stud athlete. But what Dominique, the father, was educating me on was that how much money it costs just to simply play sports today. Something that is America's pastime, everyone should have access to. And I was like, hang on, something's not right. So I started doing extensive research, peeling back the onion, talking to parents, coaches, you name it. And I realized that there was a systematic problem. And that was the fact that we live in a pay-for-play culture. And unfortunately, what also is going on with that is most of the travel ball organizations, you name it, everyone, recruitment services, everyone's selling hope. And so what I realized from working with elite athletes that were able to successfully navigate that process, they don't really need the help. They're good enough. They're going to get there on their own. But when I say predatory practices, what I mean is that other 98% that are not going to be college athletes or professional athletes, they're being told since 8, 9, 10, 11 years old that they can be, pay me $5,000, I'll get you a scholarship, pay me $3,000, I'll let you play travel ball, you name it, the exorbitant costs are there, but the value was not there. And what I found is someone in my profession, what they typically do is they hoard the knowledge. Sign on the dotted line, work with me, give me my ROI, and I'll happily do everything for you. And that's why, honestly, the business is called Empowerment Sports Group, because I want to educate youth parents on how to navigate the process and understand what they should be doing. Not relying on coaches, scouts, family, friends, you name it. At the end of the day, it's in your and your students, athletes' hands. And so that's what I'm focused on now. I wrote the book 2 years ago, which then led into a course. And the book is the GPS guide for athletes and those who surround them, which is a 360-degree view of if you're a parent, if you're a coach, scout, someone working in sports, aspiring to work in sports. I'm trying to provide a new model, an empowered model where everyone can benefit. And then when I realized after the book came out and some of the positive receptions we received is that I needed to get a little more into the weeds and more practical. And that's where the GPS guide course was developed, which was exclusively for athletes. Parents can help them, but again, you're throwing the ball, you're running the bases, you're shooting the shot, you're lifting the weights. If you think there's some magic pill of someone that can help you,
right,
go buy the pill. Or I would just go buy it, because that's what there's someone who will sell it to you. Because you're spot on, Frank. It does not exist, and so that's really the focus, and just trying to find more like-minded people and more opportunities like yours to connect with people, just to share this message that there is another way. You don't have to go broke and still be unhappy with the result.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned a couple of things here that made me think of a couple of memories. I played Little League, and it wasn't the Little League World Series Little League. We played community Little League baseball.
Right.
And we were the first team was sponsored by Jack's Pizza and Deli. I remember that. And And well, I think I still have the shirt. I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't fit. But the shirt came from Jack's Pizza and Deli.
Mm-hmm.
They bought the shirts. They bought the shirts. They sponsored the team. That was part of the thing. That was their advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we all wore jeans. No one had any sliding pants or anything like that. Yeah. And a couple of kids might have had cleats.
Mm-hmm.
That was about the expense. Maybe somebody bought a bat, but the league, I think, supplied us with bats. And, you didn't have your own bat bag and all the stuff and everything. There wasn't a major expense. And it might have been $20 from the league or something like that.
Right.
Back in, 1815, but it was, it still wasn't that much.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, the helicopter parents and all that, our coach had a wicked curveball, and he had 3 kids on the team. He had the older boy was a pitcher, and then the younger 2 were twins. One was a catcher, the other was a pitcher.
Okay.
And what he did, this is the extent of it. You're going to be a catcher. We've decided that. We're going to go out in the backyard, and I'm going to throw balls in the dirt. I'm going to throw them off your head. I'm going to throw them off your brother. You're going to learn how. But that was it. And he became a very good high school catcher.
Right.
But that was the extent of the training.
Yeah.
We had our practices. Yeah, we had 2 games a week and maybe 1 practice, and that was it. But then fast forward a few years after that, I become an athletic director.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take another way. One of my friends came to town, and her son was in, I believe, 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. And he hadn't blossomed yet. He was still just a kid.
Right.
And so she, I was an athletic director, so she's seeking my advice. Well, what should I do? I'm like, well, let's go to the park here and shoot a couple jumpers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's clanging stuff off of a swing set and like, I mean, he just wasn't developed yet.
Yeah. And
she said, well, we're thinking about getting him into travel basketball. Shouldn't he know how to play basketball first?
Yeah.
And the thing was, that was the pressure in that community. You weren't making the high school team. You weren't getting anywhere unless you were involved in travel sports. It's as if they weren't even going to look at you. It's like, well, you didn't play travel ball this summer. You can't try for our team.
Right.
And it was money, 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 money. And I said, well, look, ask him if he wants to play first. Does he really want to play before you start doing that? And the difference between then and now, just like you're saying, is you have to be involved in this. You can't go to the park and play. You can't go to somebody's driveway and play. Someone has to drive you to an event in order to just play.
Right.
And I just don't see that. But what you're saying is there is another way.
Right. Well, I think I wanted to expand upon something you mentioned too, is that the sad reality, and I think that was the beginning of it. What you experienced, what I experienced was the beginning of it. And at that time, it was exclusive. You had to be invited into that elite network of travel ball. I think when I first started playing basketball, it was actually called Select. It wasn't even
Select, right? Yes, right.
You were selected to play. And I remember that was 5th grade. So it's like, oh, wow, I made the A team.
I'm on the select team, right? Yeah.
You think you're the best thing since sliced bread. Now, with the advent of social media and just the way the networks are connected, now there's another way to be exposed to these opportunities. But the sad reality is that you don't know, well, which one do I choose? And again, I think most are still predatory because most, how they're structured is they have, forget A and B team, now they have A through Z team.
Right.
And the A team plays for free because those are actually the talented players. B through Z, well, they're
paying for it.
Yeah, they're actually the sponsors, which is hilarious. Right. Like everyone talks about getting sponsors. It's like little Johnny's mom is sponsoring little Billy's, opportunity to play. Which again, hey, to each his own. Everyone subscribes to it and they're okay with it, fine. But there is a better model, and I think it goes to the point that you brought up, which is where I also had many missteps, is development. I thought, and I was in high school playing basketball at the time when Yao Ming was really beginning to dominate the league. And so I would go shoot my jump shots on the driveway, like you said. I'd go throw the ball. I would do, what I thought was working out. Then I'd go run around the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, I'm training. I'm going to beat that next person.
Right.
Now, fast forward, when I see what real training looks like and the part that parents don't want to buy into, the players don't want to buy into, the kid who's dominating travel ball, dominating high school ball, dominating college, and even pro is treating it like a job. They're working out 30 hours a week. They're studying their craft. They're developing. It isn't by mistake, but no one wants that. They want, going back to your point, well, I just want to get him into travel ball. I just let him do that. It's like, well, you're going to step 3 and you've actually missed step 1 and 2. And I think that's the part that we need to get back to, is that if you're going to spend the money, if you're going to spend the time, well, let's start on the development. And I think you brought up one more thing that I think I really want to touch on, is that it's lost the grassroots element. It's lost the community where my local dentist is sponsoring the team, my local pizzeria. Now it's corporate America. And again, I have no problem with that. That's how the wheels turn in our country. And it is what it is, like your amazing flag in the back. But what we don't realize is that's where we're losing the identity of sports. And it's like everyone's upset, like, oh, you're paying athletes, you're doing this. Like, we're focused on the wrong things where it's like, let's get back to the basics. Let's make it fun. Let's help prepare athletes for life. Because no matter what, and I actually, ironically, I'm starting a little group with I have a 6 and a 4-year-old son. We're getting some kids together. We're starting a little basketball team. We're practicing 1 time a week, and we're going to have a league on Sundays. And you know what? If we win no games, who cares? All I want, and literally I'm going to have 3 rules when the kids come to practice. No bullying. I mean, that's just absurd, the things that are happening with little kids today. I would not want to be a kid today. Number 2, work hard. As long as you work hard, everything will go well. And number 3, which is the utmost important rule of what should be happening in youth sports, have fun. The minute it stops being fun, that should be the day that you stop. And sadly, the statistics show most quit by 11 because it isn't fun. And so that truly is the new model. It's development, it's mindset, and it's making sure that these kids are having fun because, like I said, 98% of them won't even play past high school. And the ones that do, another 98% won't even go to the professional level.
Right.
But the skills, the experiences, friendships that they will build throughout that time, I don't think anything in life prepares you for what I believe, playing team sports and also individual sports provides the youth.
Well, and as a coach, I would tell my kids, like, yeah, and none of them should have had aspirations of even playing in college. Small school and small kids, but they were great kids.
Right.
And I said, okay, here's what you're going to get out of this. You're going to look around in about another 10, 15 years, if even that long. You're going to be in his wedding. Mm-hmm. You're going to be holding his baby. Mm-hmm. You're going to be a group. And you're not going to be able to break that bond even if you want to.
Right.
And there's still that bond now. You'll see him post a picture and, hey, we got a chance to get together with this guy. And we were over here. This guy got married. It's like, yes, that's what you're building. And you learn to love hard work.
Right.
You make hard work fun. You don't make it, you have to, it's like, okay, in order for us to achieve what we have to achieve, you got to go that extra bit. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. And you learn to do that. So when life comes at you, you're understanding, okay, I may have to work 3 hours overtime and not have to complain about it. I may have to do this because I'm ready to do it. I may have to sacrifice a little bit on my end so my kid gets something. Correct. Because you're used to doing that for the group. And that's what I always thought it was supposed to be, even though I thought I was making the NBA when I was in school, but I realized that wasn't happening. But that's what I always thought. I mean, those guys that I knew back then, I still know now. I may not see them as often as I want to. We're scattered across the country. But we are still that team. Right. And we always will be. It can't be broken. And I've learned how to respect the world that way.
I love that. And I think I like to say I'm a realistic optimist. And I think that the culture is starting to swing back because it's getting so absurd. Where you talk about, like, when you came, it was $20. You had the shirt that was sponsored, the blue jeans. I mean, now it's those same kids are walking up with $500 backpacks, $300 bats, $300 gloves. It's like, who are these kids and why are we doing this?
And where do they find the money for it? Right.
Yeah. But I think that what fuels that is the D1 or bust culture. Right. And again, if you unpack the onions, numbers don't lie. No matter what these, organizations want to market you, they can't make something. It's not like they can physically go and roll you out of school and physically give you this scholarship. And that's what I struggle with being an agent, is that early on, when you're trying to pursue clients, it's like, oh, what clients have you worked with? And I had a great opportunity where a veteran agent who had a first rounder in the NBA and the NFL in the same year always was educating me on, when people say things like that, they're really asking another question. Who have you worked with? Are you a credible person? Because guess what? If I've worked with LeBron James, Clayton Kershaw, Mike Trout, you name whoever superstar athletes you want to say, you're not them. Your process is not going to be the same. So you're just because I've worked with or have not worked with that person does not matter. At the end of the day, what you actually do determines your value. It doesn't matter what jersey you put on, what person you align with. That doesn't automatically get you an opportunity. It might get you to the door, but it's not walking you through the door. And I think that's the part that it's a lot easier to, like, give your hope, give your money, give something to someone else. And sadly, it's just an insecurity. It's to say that this is the knight on the white horse that's going to ride in and save the day, when everything that I stand upon is, guess what? You are that knight. You are your savior. You have that
Right.
opportunity. And I think if we could get back to that, or I should say, if we could go there and get back to having fun within the game, I think things would really be in the best interest of everyone.
Well, I think that we look at the carrot on the stick and we forget that you got to deal with the stick, not the carrot.
Mm-hmm.
And the carrot is the contract, the scholarship, all the stuff. It's what's driving you to that.
Right.
You said NFL draft. The perfect idea for that is you've got a guy who becomes the workout warrior. He does, he's benching 9,000 pounds. He's running a 4.2. He's he's got an 87-inch vertical, but he can't play.
Yeah.
And yet they're drafting. I have yet to figure out how you can call yourself a wide receiver and they throw you the ball and you drop it.
When that's your job.
He's a wide receiver. Yeah, he's really fast. He doesn't run great routes, but that's part of being a wide receiver is to be able to run a route and catch the ball.
Right.
Who cares how fast you go? If they throw it to you and you drop it, doesn't make a difference. Well, he bunches up, but he can't block.
Right.
He's a big guy, and the guy goes, bloop. He watches him go right down. That was a great dunk. Yeah, that was a great dunk. Yeah, and why was it a great dunk? Well, somebody threw the alley-oop to him. What else can he do? He can catch alley-oops and dunk.
That's his skill.
Okay, great. But those are the people that are rewarded. Now,
right.
as the people you represent, how do you get them to understand that it's more about, or do you get them to understand it's more about what you can do, not what you can show?
I've been fortunate enough because some of the athletes that I've worked with early on and even swinging back more recently, they have the underdog mentality. Maybe it was an injury. Maybe it was, not getting the school that you wanted. Maybe it was being passed up for an opportunity. So that's been a part of my business model is working with people that have the potential, but just need to be polished up so that they're willing to do the work. Now, don't get me wrong. I have seen the other end of the spectrum with the people that do have the potential and they do, are, a highly touted recruit. But the sad part is with most of them, they don't have their mindset intact because no one really works on that with them. So to answer your question, it's the mindset. That's what I get them to work on from day one is that, look, if you think I'm the solution to your problems, I'm not. Now I'm your partner and I can help you navigate to the best of your abilities, but you still have to uphold your end of the bargain. And I think that's the biggest way that I get them to kind of buy in and get there. And some guys are having great success, shooting up the ranks in minor league baseball, getting opportunities to get to scholarships. We had one young man that would have been drafted this past year, was working at Papa John's the year prior, had some school issues, wasn't able to make work there. But because of a league that I'm a part of as a board member of the baseball resource group, was able to get in front of scouts and be showcased and be seen, went to 6 MLB draft works out, had dozens of teams interested in him. But the unfortunate part is due to COVID, he didn't have stats and the game's gone so analytic based that it's not, it didn't pan out. But he's at a junior college right now that we helped open the door to, working his butt off. And the guy's going to go from not being in school, Papa John's, getting on the radar to, he's a future, not only just getting drafted, but he's a future big leaguer.
And you mentioned something that's very important and it's the path.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that? You've got to get them on the path. Mm-hmm. How has, not to really change things, but how has the minor league system or how it's been reconfigured, how has that affected the path or has it?
It's made it difficult because you're right. They shrunk the system. So before, I think it was about 40 teams that they reduced. So now where a guy might have an opportunity because he's a senior sign or because maybe he's got some tools, but maybe the stats don't match up or whatever. Maybe he's just got that one asterisk. That guy who actually could make it to the big leagues has just been removed from the whole equation. Right. And so the path has become a lot harder. So now it's more about, well, how do you get them? Well, really, unfortunately, the exposure, but I think really the most important part of the path will still come back to development because if they're not ready, going back to the story you brought up about, the young man at the basketball park who couldn't even hit a jump shot to save his life. What's the point of exposing you to someone? They're going to walk in and walk out within 5 seconds, So that's the tough part about the path.
Do you more steer them like, okay, do you sign now if you have the chance, even if you're a late round pick, or maybe you need to go the JUCO college route because that's where you're going to get more development than maybe you would have in the past through low A ball all the way up.
Mm-hmm. So it goes back again, I would say, to the mindset. If they're ready, if they're mature at 18, 19, yes, sign. Even if the money isn't big, because what I always say, the draft is your admissions ticket. Yeah,
Right.
everyone wants $1 million. Heck, why not get $10 million? You know, if we're
Sure.
playing with monopoly money. But realizing that the average MLB contract is getting up to $4 million per year. If you really make it up there and you actually can stick and have a career, you're going to get the opportunity. And I've seen people over, I wanted 200,000, they offered me 150. I'm going to go to school. And then, you know, fast forward, COVID happens and all other things. So, wow, like you threw your dream away for $50,000 when if you would have made it, it's like, you probably, if you wanted to, I wouldn't advise this. You could be having $50,000 dinners if you had the right mindset.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But it's unfortunate. So I say that's really what we try to advise is that if you have the right mindset, absolutely go. But then there are other athletes that they're talented, they've got all the tools. But man, if you put them on 8-hour bus rides in the mine, I mean, it's a grind. It's a grind that I don't think most understand. And what I like to say is minor league baseball does not make big leaguers. It breaks people who are not big leaguers.
Right.
And so that's why I think the mindset is way more important than your potential.
Well, and that is the one sport, and I was talking to somebody about English Premier League soccer. Could we do relegation here?
Uh-huh.
And it's not set up that way because of stadiums and all that stuff. But the idea of you have to perform, it's not given to you in baseball. Even if you are a first-round pick or whatever, you still have to perform because there's always somebody up or down or from the sides that are squeezing you. It's like you have to do something. So in order to perform that way, I think you have to learn how to perform. And that's where that stage comes in, whether it be college or the minor leagues. And I'm just afraid that squeezing the minor leagues is going to water down the, hey, I got to the majors, but I didn't learn how to play. I didn't learn how to be a professional baseball player.
Correct. And it's funny, it's interesting, I should say, you bring that up because that also, and I don't even want to sound biased, and I'd love to hear, I'd love to kind of connect with others about this opinion, but I think that's what makes Major League Baseball's product truly the best. Now, granted, I'm not going to have one of those, we're better than the world, American baseball.
I know where you're going, right?
Yeah. But it's because it's blood, sweat, and tears. You could be the first round overall pick, and guess what? You're still paying your dues. You're still putting in your time. And something that I think is absolutely hilarious about basketball and football, and especially I'm going to give a little story that goes to my heart, which is I'm from the University of Dayton, is my alma mater, and we had Kostas Antetokounmpo, who is Giannis's younger brother. I mean, the guy didn't even play or produce at the college level, but man, that last name is pretty appealing.
Right.
So he got picked up in the second round of the NBA draft a few years ago. He won a championship before his brother, who is 1,000 times better than him, and only made it to the NBA because of his brother. So it's like that wouldn't happen in any other place because, like in baseball, it's like, yeah, you might get the opportunity where you get in the door. Well, then guess what, buddy? You're home again after you can't make it out of rookie ball. So it's unfortunate that system exists because it doesn't really provide the best product. And the reason I bring it up and call it a product is that people want to think that, it's America's pastime. It's, something we love and we get so rah, rah, rah. Basketball, football, baseball, anything else is no different than any other business, from Pepsi to Google to Starbucks. Their product is the talent on the field. And so if you don't put out the best talent, the best product, people are not going to enjoy. And I think that's something that it intrigues me because we don't, with other sports, like you brought up about how their system goes. I wish they did that. I wish that they had, some kind of phase where maybe football would be tough because of just the grind of it all. But maybe it's like a flag league where it's like, hey, survive one season of this flag, minimal contact. Basketball the same. Hey, everyone goes to the G League. I think we would get a better product.
I believe that's right. Well, for every Jimmy Butler who's a late round pick, there are 1,000 lottery picks that didn't do diddly.
Yeah.
But you flip it around to baseball, for every whoever you want to call Jack McDowell. Why that name came to mind, I have no idea. But you have your Mike Piazzas.
Correct.
You have guys that went, well, where did this guy come from?
Correct.
What was he, 62nd round? I mean, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Why are you even drafting that many people? What are you doing? That was a favor to him. Favorite time to start to put him out there like, hey, this guy can play. Why didn't we notice that?
Right.
Because there's a development process like you're talking about, and we're not expecting baseball players, for the most part, to be finished products.
Correct.
We're expecting in other sports, hey, you got to play in the NFL. We drafted you. Your quarterback, you got to play right away.
Yeah.
But I was just playing in high school 2 years ago. That's all right. You're now the leader of the New York Jets. Okay, now what? Well, you're no longer leaving the New York Jets. You're going someplace else. Why? Because you weren't ready. Well, you knew that when you drafted me. And it doesn't make any sense, right?
And you're making me go back to, again, the mindset and almost like the implications we put on these young athletes where,
right.
And I love LeBron James's show, The Shop, and Carmelo Anthony was on one of the recent episodes talking about that. And it's like, imagine that, I know they're now starting to talk about mental health. I'm sure almost any athlete who's playing a professional sport has some level of mental health issues.
Sure.
Going to exactly what you just said. We have the most unrealistic expectations for them. It's like, imagine, I want to go back to corporate America. You're hired to do a junior level position. You come in and you've got X amount of experience. You're going to do Y job. They're like 6 months in. What's going on? You can't take care of these expense reports. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't write this contract. Oh, you just got out of school. We shouldn't expect that of you. But we're expecting these athletes. And I know people are going to say, oh, it's the compensation. That doesn't matter. The doctor who is the best at his craft is making that money. The lawyer, the account, you name whatever occupation. So it's almost laughable because we don't realize that really this system doesn't benefit anyone. And I think if we don't really try to examine what we should be doing and understanding that, and it goes to something you mentioned a while ago, is that, well, why are you even doing it? I think if you even are fortunate enough to get to that level and it's a job or this, that, and the third, well, what are you doing it for? Like, what are you doing to leverage it? Because at the end of the day, it's a game. I'm sure you or I could drive around right now and in a few minutes see someone playing one of these sports that we're mentioning because it's a game, it's a hobby, it's a pastime, and it's a blessing to get to play it at that level and receive that compensation. But if we're not going to acknowledge the fact that, one, it's a game, yes, it's a business, but what are these individuals trying to do with it? What are they doing to leverage it? Because if not, what's it all for? Yeah, you make some money. Yeah, you do some great things. You maybe fulfill a goal, but the game doesn't stop for anyone. No matter how great you are. I mean, it was crazy, even seeing things happen with Kobe and like still being in shock about that and how they paused the game for a moment. And, rest in peace to Kobe. And this is not by any means critical of him, but it's like, then the next day after they paused those couple of games, there was right back to it. So until we recognize that it's not going to stop until maybe the world ends, well, what is it that we're really trying to have come from this process,
Well, and that was the thing of COVID. We're going to play in a bubble. Why? Well, because somebody's paying us, and so we've got to get them paid. So, I mean, they had to figure out a way. It would have made sense to say season's over, especially basketball. We can't play basketball.
Right.
Nope, we'll figure out a way. Why?
The money.
Got to make money. You're under contract, and the contract doesn't say, I'm sure it doesn't say, if we don't play, you don't get paid.
Right.
I'm pretty sure a guaranteed contract means we got paid. So if you're shelling out millions of dollars in payroll, at least got to make $10.
Correct.
So it's
what's
interesting
sad,
to see.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Please don't lose that train of thought. But what's sad, because I saw it and experienced people I knew personally and individuals that like work for these teams, these billion-dollar organizations, to your point, and I get it, it's a business. You need to play because you need to support your business interest. But instead of finding ways to cut fat from maybe the top, they were laying off people at 50, 60,000. And I'm like, you're a billion-dollar entity and you're like somehow removing a $60, salary is saving you money. I mean, it kind of proves where their interests were,
Right. And if you are paying the peanut vendor, that's the guy that's easy to take care of. It's like, hey, I know that you do this and this is the way you supplement your income and your real job probably isn't paying anything. Here's a check. Go out in the street and sell peanuts there. I don't know, but do something. We'll give you an alternative, but we value you. And that's a whole corporate America that we can get into on another thing. But what do we value you for? We value for your work, or do we value for what you bring to us?
Right.
And that's where you have to start thinking, well, maybe it's not. Again, there's a line, I forgot who said it, but when Shaq was playing, Shaq was rich. The guy who was paying Shaq was wealthy. There is a difference. I'm not going to pay this guy that kind of money if I'm not making a heck of a lot more.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that as a player and you're saying, or as someone representing a player, get what you can get, but understand it's going to end at one time. How do you prepare them for the future?
Correct. And I want to talk about two things that you just mentioned, which is something that again, I brought it up a little while ago, really frustrates me when people say, oh, these athletes are babies, they're pampered. They make $300 million over whatever, 5-year term. Well, you don't really know how business works, I guess, huh? Because you're probably, and not you, I'm saying the individual that has this
Right.
Because just like at your job, you're making $70,000 a year. Well, how do you think you're making that $70,000? How do you think they're making that $300,000? Because you're probably producing for the company double that in revenue.
A lot more than that, right?
Yeah. And so that same athlete who's making that money is producing that amount of revenue for the business. That's just simple economics. But people don't want to really understand economics and how business works. And so it's unfortunate that, to your point, yeah, he's doing well and he's making the most of it and he's rich, but the person who's signing the front of the check is absolutely wealthy. And again, to each his own. I'm going to, I'm speaking it into existence. I'm an Ohio guy. I want to own the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Cavaliers someday. So, hey, I will never be one to be against good old American business, but we need to really understand what it's all about. And I think there can be a better way. And then you bring up another point that I really want to talk about, which is making sure you realize the ball is eventually going to stop. And Shaquille O'Neal is a great example with his franchises, his businesses, all the things he's done, even having his shoe at Walmart when everyone makes fun, like, and this isn't a knock on Jordan, his business model is different, but it's like, you want to sell 100 $500 shoes or $1 million $50 shoes, or heck, probably less than that, So it's just, guys don't realize that, because again, the person in my seat, they'd say, great, you're the first round overall pick. Boom, I'm going to call. Not even I'm going to call. You're the first round overall pick. Boom, Nike or Adidas is going to call.
They're going to call, right.
I don't have to do any work. Nike, your offer is this. Adidas, your offer is that. Well, we're going to go with whatever. Oh, but he actually likes this other alternative company that he likes Tom's shoes because he likes the whole 1-for-1. They're going to give something back. Nah, that doesn't pay enough. So I'm not even going to present that, or I'm not even going to pursue that. Oh, now McDonald's is calling. Oh, well, he's a great physical specimen. He's 5% body fat. He's never ate McDonald's in his life. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get this deal set up when, oh, wait, actually, he would rather work with this local, smoothie place that he has a smoothie for every game. Oh, but that doesn't pay and that doesn't fit. So we're not even doing really, like, the brands of these athletes that we see, they're not even controlling the fate of. And so it's realizing that the game is going to eventually stop. Be authentic at who you are and what you represent, and build your business interest that can go far beyond the day of the game. Because something that blew my mind, it was in 2016, I believe. Clayton, it could have been more recently, but I remember reading an article where Clayton Kershaw was making like 36 million from the Dodgers. His endorsements were a measly $3 million. It's like, how can your value be throwing a ball every few days for about 30, 40 minutes, be 36 million, and you can't go out in the public and find a company that would love to spend money and realize your market value? It's just lazy. I'll be honest. On the pro side, it's just lazy. It's just tricking people to align with them, doing no work, and waiting to see what your payday is, as opposed to saying, well, what is it really that's in the best interest for him? And that's the thing, like going back to, you asked about how to prepare some of our clients. It's the mindset of realizing that when I work with you as a unique individual. I'm not pulling out oh, you're a shortstop? Oh, well, great. I had a shortstop last year. Well, we did 1, 2, 3 for him. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 for you. No, you're a shortstop. You're a completely unique individual. You're going to get a unique experience and a unique service. But that also takes having faith in your own abilities and realizing that why would you want to follow someone else's path when you are not that other individual,
Well, and I go the other side of that, and I'll use the Antoine Walker reference and go,
okay,
how are you broke? How is that possible?
Yeah.
Well, so I made some bad investments. If you have $10 million in the bank, what are you investing on? What investment can you say? I really need to make people invest in you.
Right.
You don't invest in them.
Right.
You are the commodity.
Correct.
So they invest in you. And I don't know why they don't see that, but I think that's part of what you're talking about. It's like, we're going to work with what you want, not what people want from you. Because I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was good. And they don't recognize they're actually now. Look, you might not be the CEO of the Miami Heat, and Antoine Walker's good, but you're the CEO of Antoine Walker LLC. And until you choose to have that faith and that confidence, but they don't. And again, it makes me come back to empowerment. They don't have that empowerment. They have someone that's saying, "Oh no, Antoine, don't worry about this. I got this. Just go throw that ball through the hoop. You just you throw that ball through the hoop. I'll do the business. You're not qualified to do this."
Right.
But wait, you're my employee. It's my money. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. But again, that would be empowering these athletes to be the CEO of their brand, as opposed to sadly being the employee of their own brand.
Well, and part of that, I think, is, for example, you use a Ben Simmons or a number one pick, Markelle Fultz or somebody like that,
Correct.
and you say, you are now the face of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating ramen noodles in the dorm 2 weeks ago. Now imagine you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
And you go to work at wherever,
Mm-hmm.
Lowe's, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, you walk in the door and you go, hey, we're glad you're here. Everybody, this is Joe. He's the face of Lowe's. Me? Oh, you've trained to be the face of Lowe's, haven't you? No, I just trained to play ball. Well, everything's going to run through you. Your face is going to be on all the ads. The people are going to talk to you. After the games, they want to interview you. You're like, are you ready for that? No, I don't care how much you've trained for that. You're not ready for that. And part of when we go to school, now I went to school for a degree that I'm not sure that I'm using. I'm using it now because I'm running my mouth. But when you go to school, to college,
mm-hmm.
This is something my brother and I discussed it a number of times. Why don't you go to school for business, finance, marketing, that stuff?
Right.
Why wouldn't you study that? Because when you come out, now you're a leg up. I use Lamar Jackson. He's negotiating his own deal. He might not get the best deal, but he's not paying 20% to somebody that's trying to rip him off.
Correct.
You know,
and doesn't have his interest at heart.
Right, exactly. But what you're saying is, this is what the boutique area that I'm working in is, we're going to not only represent you, we're going to empower you to be better and to get a better deal and to move forward.
Correct. No, and I'll be honest, even off that boutique part, you know, if you want someone who's going to pull up in the Ferrari and then is going to have your matching Ferrari behind him, well, guess what? A car is a depreciating asset. I'm going to pull up my Toyota, and then if you would like a Ferrari, and this is something one of my partners we just spoke about, now I'm not going to buy you a Ferrari. You're not going to buy a Ferrari, but I'll be happy to pick up the phone and call Ferrari and say, do you want to give him a Ferrari? But of course, no one's doing that. They're bragging about how they're spending and using cash and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, wow. Where is your team of individuals that are like, whoa, why are you spending money on a depreciating asset? Let's let them just give that to you, because what marketing value do they get seeing you driving down the 405 freeway in Los Angeles in your Ferrari, LeBron James? And I'm not saying him, I bring it up because, you know, like that's the appeal. And that just goes back to, again, it's just a lazy model. It's a model that's a Lamar Jackson situation where people are just around you, just waiting to get their opportunity, and they're not creating opportunities. And I think that's the fundamental thing that athletes really, especially at the high of highs, if the people around you are not bringing you opportunities, but are just sitting back and waiting for opportunities to come, well, then it's time to clear shop. What value do they have? I could go get a groom of kindergartners that could do that. You know, you don't need anyone that you're paying an exorbitant fees to do that.
Well, I use the model for tennis. Even though it's an individual sport, it still kind of works to what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Roger Federer probably hasn't paid for anything in the last 20 years. You know, I'm sure when they pull into Monaco for a tournament, he's not going, who do I pay for this room? You know, that ain't happening. You know, Roger, come on in. You know, I need a ride I need to rent a car to get. He's not renting a car. Mm-hmm. You know, he's not paying for his rackets. You know, that's why he goes through 7 rackets a match, or probably more than that. Oh, it's a ball. You know, we're changing balls, new rackets. If you're paying for rackets, you're not doing that. So when you get, and that's getting to that level.
Right.
And the people that get to that level, they're, I don't want to say being used, but people are jumping on board with that. And you have to understand that's what being that level athlete gives you. And that's when you're working your way through the system. Again, if you're riding the buses and the minors, you've got to learn what you're going to get from that.
Right.
You bring that out and go, okay, this is the piece from Bull Durham. Okay, work on your cliches. You got to learn to be what you want to be. And I don't think we do that now. Like I said, from youth league on up, I don't think that we're teaching you what to become. We're expecting you to finish product in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but Johnny scored 27 points. He's 5 inches taller than everybody.
Of course, you know?
Yeah, he's supposed to. Well, he's going to be great. Well, what if he stops growing?
Or when all the other kids do grow.
Right. Well, I hadn't thought about that. Of course you have. But you've placed value on achievement without there really being actual cheating.
Yes. And it's that cliche that it's not about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And that's
Right.
something in my own life, again, having 4.5 years of trying to break into the industry and then breaking in and realizing I'm just 1 year away from my first rounder, because sadly, as an agent working on the high end, that's what validates you. The fact that someone who their market value is high enough to go there to be a first rounder decided to work with you really doesn't change anything about me. It's not like I put on my magic underwear that day and it all worked
Right.
out, but that's the facade that we buy into. And I think you said something that honestly saddens me, because it was my own experience. I already seen it being around. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and already what's going around just in the world today is that we set kids, and I'm talking academics, I mean, literally every aspect of it. And it's a strong statement, but we set kids up for failure and don't even prepare them for failure. And what I mean by that is, you're right. It's this achievement that, hey, you have to achieve or you failed. And we don't realize that, guess what? Well, if you didn't make it this year, that isn't failure. That was an opportunity to learn and grow. But we set kids up to fail. When they fail, they're like, wow, this is what I was supposed to be able to do. Now I could not do it. So I'm just done. I'm going to quit. I'm going to go.
I won't play anymore. Right.
Yeah. And it's so unfair, because guess what? Now, and I think that's something you brought up earlier, where is this child going to go in life? Because now it's like every time it gets a little bit difficult. Now, okay, I flamed out in sports. Well, now, doggone it, everyone says school's so important. I'm going to get an A in my biology class. I got a C. Well, heck, you were getting a D before. You don't realize that's progression, but because the bar says you have to have an A, now you failed. Well, I'm dropping out of school. Take it a step further. Now you're working at McDonald's. You're like, I want to be the shift manager of this McDonald's someday. But you know what? You don't make it. You get a quarter promotion. You're like, oh, but I was trying to be the shift manager, which gave me $1 promotion. Now I'm quitting that. And now what are you, homeless? It's like, that's so unfortunate that we're setting kids up for failure and we don't even prepare them to handle failure.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. We have to get a reward for everything. We have to do this. And it's not okay. And it's coming from all ends too. Yeah. You know, look, I'm really proud of my son. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he did something. You're not proud of him when he didn't do something? That's kind of scary. It's like, you've got he's got the gold stars. Great. What about the kid that didn't get the gold stars? Are you proud of him too? Mm-hmm. Maybe he's funny. Maybe he's smarter. Maybe he does something else. Yeah. Everyone's different. Everyone achieves at a different level in different things. And we're setting them up for failure without knowing that it's failing.
Right.
Oh, and you don't know it until it happens. Like, well, what do I do now? Well, you go back and try again. We live in a world of cheat codes.
Yeah.
That to me is it. We live in a world of cheat codes. Well, I'm not going to go from level 2 to level 3 to level 4 to level 5. Here's how you get to level 10 without having to do that. Mm-hmm. And we're looking to zoom past everything instead of realizing this is how we build up our equity in ourselves.
Well, and that's been my frustration in the business, because I realized when I was entering the marketplace and trying to have these conversations, no one wanted to hear what I had to say, because what I had to say was blood, sweat, and tears. It's going to take many, many years. Other people are like, but for $9.99, you can get there next week. Man, they're selling so much of that because.
Right.
Sorry, I ended up knocking up.
Get excited.
But they're selling so much of that, and people eat it up because it's the cheat code. And so that's the unfortunate part, is that we don't want to do the work. We don't want to put in the time to perfect our craft. Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours to perfect something. And it's unfortunate, because ingraining that into children, it goes to the point that you brought up, and why I think sports is so monumental, is that, well, you're around the game so much that you might realize, well, hey, little Johnny, you're not going to be the baseball, football, basketball, soccer player, but man, you're so good at evaluating the game and understanding a player's potential. Maybe you're a scout. Maybe you're a coach. Maybe you're a general manager. Maybe you're an agent. It's like, we tell them that if you're playing this game, going back to preparing them for failure, setting them for failure and not preparing them to fail. Well, if you don't make it as the highest, best, amazing athlete, you failed, but you don't realize, well, guess what? Heck, I'm living proof of that. And I like to say I'm one of the most successful failures you meet. I didn't navigate sports the right way. I didn't know how. I had a single mother. We weren't able to figure the process out. I've now dedicated my life to saying, if you think that I failed, if I'm going to, for any second believe I failed, I'm going to assure you that is incorrect.
Right.
You've been prepared for where you're supposed to be. So I love that you said that. And honestly, the point I wanted to bring up before, but I got too excited about that point, was that a thing that I'm going to do my absolute best to not become, the older I get, the wiser I get, the more mature, we always look back and say, oh, those doggone kids, you know, they're so entitled. But back in my day, we used to walk 30 miles to school and through the snow, uphill, backwards, and there was dogs chasing us and all that. Okay, maybe that was true, but I think we know that's an exaggeration. But we blame kids for the environment that they're in when we create the environment.
Exactly.
The whole participation trophy. Last I checked, the kids aren't buying, bringing, and giving themselves these trophies. We've created this culture. We say, well, they're entitled. They don't want to work. But we don't want to realize, well, who made this culture?
Right. Well, and going back a step, there was, when I was coaching, my first year coaching, I was the varsity assistant, basketball coach, even though I was just kind of thrown into the mix. Mm-hmm. But we had a real nice group of kids that were on the JV team, a lot of juniors. And one of the kids, one leg was shorter than the other or something. He just couldn't run. I mean, he couldn't perform physically.
Right. No matter what.
But no matter what, it's just it. But he was the smartest player I've ever been around. Mm-hmm. And that's encompassing a lot of time. And after that year, he didn't come out the next year because he knew he couldn't physically do it. I'm like, please come out and be my assistant coach.
Right.
Please, I begged him, please be my assistant coach because you know what's going to happen before they do. You see things. You can help them. But because the pressure was to be a successful player, he gave it up. I'm like, no, you can still enjoy the game. You just might not be able to enjoy it from the playing perspective. We don't all have the physical ability, but we can still be a part of it and go from there. Right. And the same thing with what you're talking about, the participation thing. We had a basketball camp, and everybody got what they got, a certificate or a trophy or whatever. And lady calls about an hour after camp's over. It's like, my little Johnny's crying. And you guys it's your fault. Right? Which one was little Johnny? Well, his brother got a trophy and his cousin got a trophy. And he said, everyone else got a trophy but him. We said, well, what's his name? When we go, was that the kid was sitting in the corner picking his nose the entire time? Yeah, I was like, okay. And we didn't tell her. I'm like, oh, well, all right, because you weren't going to be able to reason with him.
Yeah, you were going to get the nose picking trophy.
Yeah, he got a certificate for being here, didn't he? Yeah. Well, but he won a trophy.
Did he earn it?
Well, if school's closed for the summer, so come back in the fall and we'll see what we can do. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do with that because they expect something,
right?
And since they expected it, the kid expected it. Now, and this is a generational thing, I'm sure. But if I'd have come home with that attitude, my dad would have went, "Well, what'd you do?" "Well, I was there." Go cut the grass and shut up. It's like, did you earn anything? Did you want your allowance? Yeah. Well, you want extra allowance? Sure. Well, what are you going to do for it? Well, I asked. And? Well, I need $5 more for this thing. They're like, okay, what are you going to do for it? Ask mom. There was always an alternative that got shut down because you didn't do anything. So part of that is, like you said, if you were a minor league baseball player, say, well, I don't know what the levels are anymore because I get so confused, but say you're in Double-A.
Okay.
And you see that, and you're a right-handed relief pitcher.
Okay.
And you see on the big club that the guy that's their middle reliever is now 38 years old.
Okay.
And you're thinking, I got a shot. There's a spot right there.
Right.
They've got to take me. Right? That I'm the next one in line logically. And for the next 2 months, your ERA is 5.85. And you can't get anybody out, and they don't even bother putting you in against lefties. And you're like, but it's my job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the next guy in line. I'm the next guy.
Yeah.
And they go, well, we're going to make a trade. We're going to bring somebody else, and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, we're like, well, that's not fair. Mm-hmm. You got to perform. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. No. Wow. And it's so interesting that you say that because it really still takes me back to the solution is just approaching the process the right way. It starts with the mindset, how you go into the process, and understanding, well, why are you here in the first place? What is it that you hope to get out of this? And it can be the pie in the sky you want to be in the big leagues, the NBA, the NFL. Great. That's where you're shooting for. Well, where are you at now? What do you need to do to get there? And realizing if you don't reach that, if you've taken the right steps going through the process, you haven't failed. You ended up where you were supposed to be. More than likely, you weren't supposed to be there because the numbers don't support everyone going
Right.
in. If you were to go interview a room of kindergartners in any place in the country right now, all of them, I guarantee you, and this is shooting from the hip, 50% of them want to be professional athletes or astronauts or what have you. And it doesn't change. But it's letting them realize this is where you are, this is where you want to go, this is the process you have to go through, and the people around them actually supporting them for their best interest. And so I know it can happen. I see sprinkles of it coming, but I think truly it's got to be grassroots. We've got to get back to grassroots, making it fun. And I think that solution is there.
Well, you use the example of, you've got a 6th grade team, and last year they won. So this year's 6th grade team is the defending champions. They didn't win anything. The grade before them won something. So the tradition is that, and we won, but it's a whole new group of people. They've got to prove it themselves, right? They have to do it themselves. You can't rely on what happened 3 years ago. Well, 3 years ago we won the championship. The school that I coached at, God bless them, great school. But some of the fans were like, well, we won state 3 times. And when was that? 68, 75, 77, like something like that. And it's now 2020. And you're going to say that's what we're building on? The kids that are playing are their grandkids now.
I was going to say their parents weren't even probably.
Yeah, their parents weren't even alive then. Right. So, and it's great that you had that. And we did have that tradition. That was fantastic. Because if we got a kid, say his last name was Jones, and he was I knew what that Jones kid was going to be like. Because I witnessed, 3 generations and 4 cousins and all that. But it still didn't say, you got a ring coming for you. You still have to go out and earn it. And I think that what you're talking about is we are empowered to do what we should do.
Right.
But we take the empowerment of what others have done and what others put on us and think that's who we are.
That's correct. And I think it's tough because it's easier to assume something external can solve our problems because it's hard to recognize you can either be your greatest enemy or your greatest friend. And most people don't want to have that acknowledgement. And I think you bring up a great story where even on the professional level, they get their championship ring at the first home game, they get it. And most of those champions that got there, they're working for the next one. They get the ring. They're excited. They've already done all their celebrations. They put it down. The clock has restarted. I think that's why I love about sports. That's why even myself, I say I'm still an athlete. It's like I bring this same mindset in everything I do. And it's just that I'm not competing with the world, even in my business, which is extremely competitive. I'm competing with myself.
Right. And we'll close it on this. When you have that ring ceremony, and this was a great achievement by everybody. We pulled together, we overcame and all that. But we're going to have another one in a couple of weeks because Joe's on another team now.
Right.
Okay, you move forward. You just can't rest on, this is what I did. Great. Well, we traded him or he signed someplace else. Everybody has to keep at it. Tom Brady won a championship with another team beside the Patriots. And that's fine. But he just didn't say, well, good enough. I got to keep moving. And I think what you're talking about, what you're looking at from the grassroots up, if you do that all the time, if you look at trying to achieve for the reasons of why you want to achieve and what that brings to you, and if it's chasing the dollar, that's cool. If that's what you want to do.
No,
if it's chasing the ring, that's fine. If that's your motivation. Mm-hmm. But if it's the external stuff that has nothing to do with you, that's where you get in trouble. And I'm glad there's someone like you to mentor people around to get to that. Right. Because, you go to a gym and there are 8 kids playing and there are 27 parents cheering them on. And the kids are like, why are they here? This isn't even a game.
Yeah.
Why do this? Can't we do this on our own? Can't we have our own motivation? You know, I love a swim meet. Swim meets are great. If you've ever been to a swim meet, it's fantastic.
Okay.
Because the athletes are in the pool underwater with earplugs in and can't hear.
That is, I never thought about it like that.
And the crowd goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Go, swim fast, you blah, blah, blah. The coaches are on the side of the pool. You need to do it. I have to do this for me. I can't hear it. I have no idea what these people are doing. Yeah. Now, the adulation comes when you get out of the pool, but all you can do is swim your best. You can't even see your competition half the time. Wow. So you swim your personal best, as close to that as you can get, and then that's how you win the meet. If your best is better than their best, you win. If it's not, you don't. But you're really, even though it's a competition, you're competing with yourself.
Yeah. Gosh, I love that you say that, because I think you could take it to track too, where
right.
You see the people that they're winning, but then they're looking back and then, oh, wow, they're losing. And so it's something that I had to buy. It was a book, Getting to Maybe. I struggled in law school, and it was more of, I can't worry about being on law. I don't care about anything. I only went to law school to be qualified to do my job. And it's like running your own race. It's a cliche, but it's so true. It's like you have to run your own race and be comfortable with that. And I think it goes back to just being comfortable in your own skin. And like, we live in a culture where you would think these hyper powered and they're 500, 400 pounds, like bench, all this, they're the most confident. No, they're not, because the people around them, it's all external. It isn't internal. And that's why I really appreciate you bringing that up, because now that's something that I'm gonna have to add to my belt, is the swim meet, where it's like, keep your head down, keep swimming. When you get out the pool, if you won a gold medal, great. If you didn't, who cares, as long as you got better and you worked your hardest.
And you did your best, right? Yeah. And I'll use a Dayton reference here. I had the good fortune to play against some NBA players at Ohio State during the summer once. Okay. I wasn't invited. I just happened to. They had 9. They needed another person on the court. And one of those players was Ron Harper.
Okay.
And I thought, well, you know, he's not supposed to be able to shoot. He can't do this and can't do that. And I thought, I can still play. You know, I was like 25, 26 at the time.
Yeah.
And Ron Harper's foot went over my shoulder as he went to dunk. And I thought, well, I'm still as good as I think I am. And I feel good about that. But, hey, there are people out here that are better at this.
Right.
And I was still happy for that. I mean, I'm enjoying the game. You know, I'm guarding Dennis Hobson, which was impossible to do. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, okay, cool. I learned something about myself, and I learned where I fit in.
Right.
That's not always a bad thing to have happen. You know?
Right.
Now, if that had happened when I was 16, maybe I said, here's the level I need to get to. Right. But when it happened when I'm 25, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some that do better. But as long as you do the best of what you can do, you're in good shape. And I didn't have to, my brother was there heckling me. But other than that, I didn't have to worry about the other the outliers and yelling and screaming and all that. No fans, just went out and go. Yeah. And that's what I think we need more of. You know, we need to be able to get on our bikes and go play.
Right.
We need to be able to go to a park that's safe and just go have some fun, discover stuff.
Right.
Why are you focusing on one sport when you're 9 years old?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And then you burn, like you said, you burn out by your 11. By the time you're 11, now you're doing what? Playing Parcheesi? What do you do? What comes of that? So I appreciate we could do this for another 3 hours.
I was going to say this, but I wanted before we close. I got to give the shameless plug. We talked.
Yeah, I was going to say right.
Here's the GPS guidebook. Please go to empowermentsportsgroup.com and check it out, or social media Empowerment SG. And you know, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this. And honestly, the thing I'm doing as soon as we get off is I'm working on global expansion. I'm actually connecting with some people over in Europe that exactly what we're talking about. They want this, they want the book, they want the course, and they want the mindset. So I'm grateful for your opportunity, Frank.
Well, you're welcome. And I think from 2 Ohio people, here's how we're going to close this. Now, we're both trying to achieve something, and we're both looking at a global way.
Right.
I can't go with you to buy the Reds. I can't do that. But I can purchase part of the Cavs with you. How's that? Maybe we'll meet halfway and buy the Clippers. Maybe that'll. How's that sound?
And we can see on the West Coast.
Yeah, all right. Oh, well, I'll be absentee, sure. I'm not going to that stadium. They tore down my whole neighborhood to build that stadium. I'm not going. But the idea being, look, you can get there from anywhere.
Right. And
we're both from about an hour away from Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're 3 time zones away and still trying to do what needs to be done. So I appreciate Michael. This has been great. Throw some social media crap out there so people can say, hey, he does this and I can follow him.
Yeah, sure. So for the company, the social media is Empowerment SG. You can find us by looking for Empowerment Sports Group. And then mine personally, I go by Sports Law Doc on social media. So check us out, Empowerment SG, Sports Law Doc. And then you can get to the home, which is empowermentsportsgroup.com, get you everything you need.
Good. And a shout out to Michelle for putting this together as well.
Absolutely. A shout out to Michelle Hill, who is the best, who actually, I'm going to put the book back up. She made this project come to life. I got to work with Michelle on this book, and it was truly a pleasure and a journey. And she's a phenomenal individual. Great friend.
One of the nicest people you're going to run across. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. We will make sure we publish this. Now, it's time to quit because I can't talk. We will publicize this as best as we can, and we're going to get out there and get some stuff done. So
perfect. And just let me know how that goes, Frank. Like I said, I'll connect with you in a little bit. I just got a couple back-to-backs, but, I'm excited.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Take care.